here is why Moldova has not collapsed yet, despite mass immigration and bank frauds that would be detrimental in most developing countries. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Reports. Today I wanted to go over something that is interesting to me, as Moldova is an interesting country and an interesting case study in neutrality being inbuilt into systems, and why neutrality actually has helped them to stay afloat for as long as they have. And so it's with this that I will have to give a disclaimer. I am going to be talking pretty heavily about both Russian and Romanian policies towards Moldova, and so of course if you are someone who doesn't really like the deep dives into policy, I would recommend perhaps checking out my other videos. That said, if you are more interested in these deep dives, of course, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like the video, of course, if you like this content. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, Moldova is an interesting case study in resiliency, as it has gone through many periods of occupation, and yet it still realistically holds water. Now, down below in the description, I'm going to go over why they are so globally mobile. So if you are looking for the history of the country, I recommend you to go down in the description and look at the history of the country, and then come back, pause, come back. And with that being the case, we'll start at the 1991 breakup. So the 1991 breakup essentially was a hugely tumultuous time in Moldova, and much like a lot of the former USSR countries, the person that got elected was very pro-Russia. And so without the reforms necessary, it turned into a corrupt pariah state. And by many metrics, Moldova was poorer than Sub-Saharan Africa. And you'll notice this trend in a lot of EU countries nowadays, actually, like Romania and so forth, because they were so poor after communism that literally African countries would beat them in terms of GDP per capita, PPP. And so, with this being the case, it was often seen as a bastion of prostitution, human things like this. Of course, I will have to bleep out some of the words, so I apologize that you won't get the full listening experience of what I'm talking about. However, that essentially created a huge mass immigration problem that continues to this day. And so, at about 2014 was the worst of the worst, as the former president of Moldova stole $1 billion equivalent of money from the Moldovan bank to then offshore profits. Now, this is something that is widely reported on. I'll show an article here. Essentially, what happens now is that he is arrested. He got arrested in Greece. However, what really flipped it was the fact that they started leaning both on Russia and Romania at the same time. And this was key to their growth, as during 2018 they started really growing. And it was for the first time that Romania was growing at a very rapid pace. And this created essentially a gap in how people were able to finally spend their paycheck. And so it was no longer survival, it was growth. Now, after 2025, the contract to Ukraine's Gazprom pipeline structure to go to Moldova was cut due to the ongoing war with Ukraine. And so this created what was supposed to be a huge pressure on Moldova. But because in 2018 Maia Sandu was elected, they had diversified enough away from the oil and natural gas from Russia that they kept all their lights on all year round. And so Romania was, in essence, a saving grace to Moldova. And this would not have probably happened if Romania did not consider Moldova to be an integral part of Romania. Now, a lot of my videos about Moldova inherently connect to Romania. And this is important because you have to realize just how connected these two countries are. And it's once you understand these connections that you get to understand why they survived as long as they did, and additionally, why they continue to prosper as Romania continues to prosper. And so I think that in the next upcoming few years, you will see that Moldova outperforms even Romania as they deepen their capital institutions. And I will be going over bank capitalization and the bank opening process in another video, which I will link up here or down in the description below. It's with this that this is a country that once was very corrupt, a bastion of all the crime you can think of, that has turned into one of the safest, most secure, most stable countries in the region. And of course, not comparing to Romania, but comparing to Ukraine, comparing to Belarus, and even in some metrics to indeed Romania, indeed Bulgaria. And so essentially this is the benefit to why they survived and why they'll continue to survive into the future. That said, I hope you enjoyed this video about why Moldova was inherently able to survive so many bad and negative things. If you did, feel free to like it. If you really enjoyed it, feel free to share. If you want to join me on this journey, feel free to subscribe. If you are looking for a way to support me, I recommend you to check out my Patreon. I am really starting to try to break even on these videos as I am currently not making money. That said, this has been the Traveling Report, signing off.